What's up, everyone? Today is April 12th of 2024, and in today's video, the topic will be the death of former NFL Hall of Fame running back, and perhaps more significantly, the subject of the trial of the 20th century, O.J. Simpson, who has passed away at the age of 76. In today's video, we will be discussing the numerology of this news story, as we always do on this channel. And in order to understand this, it's important to have a firm grasp on the simple language of Gematria. Gematria is a method to extract numbers from letters, names, words, and phrases. And the ciphers that I teach, what I call the main or primary ciphers, are all shown on the screen here. And we'll peek at a couple of others, but these are the ones that are most significant. And it's strange that we get this death of O.J. Simpson, a former Hall of Famer, successful running back in the league. Simpson died on April 10th, which happens to be the birthday of a man whose name is virtually synonymous with the NFL, John Madden. Now, if you follow my work, you may recall John Madden from a recent video. Just last week, I did a video on the death of Mike Colon. And as you see here on the thumbnail, I talked about how there was a Simpsons riddle connected to this story and how he died 8 days before John Madden's 88th birthday. In fact, there's a whole section on John Madden in this video. Go ahead and click it down below in the description yourself. So now OJ dies on John Madden's 88th birthday, which is a number that will be of strong focus today. O.J. Simpson was born in San Francisco, California, which will lead us to another major element of this video, as the city of San Francisco gets its name from Saint Francis of Assisi. Saint Francis of Assisi is also the namesake of Pope Francis, the current Bishop of Rome, the first ever member of the Jesuit order to hold the position at the top of the Catholic Church. So as with any prominent figure in mainstream media, there's a lot to unpack here with the numerology, but I'm going to do my best to stay focused and keep on the primary riddle, which is essentially the number 2. Now, O.J. Simpson played most of his career for the Buffalo Bills, 9 out of 10 seasons. And Buffalo is the last major city in the United States that saw totality on Monday's Great American Total Solar Eclipse. Notice how the name O.J., Orenthal James Simpson, or Simpson all sum to 48 and 84 in various methods, which was the date of this year's total eclipse. You'll also see that the number 2 has gematria of 84, like Simpson. And Simpson died 2 days after this eclipse. Now, being from San Francisco, there's symbolism for the Golden Gate Bridge here, a bridge which has a north and south tower, 2 towers. We'll also be discussing how this connects to the September 11th attacks, where 2 towers were destroyed in New York City, which was a major riddle for Tisha B'Av, the ancient Jewish holiday which commemorates the destruction of the 2 temples. And here we got a guy with 2 initials as his first name, played for 2 different teams, accused of killing 2 different people. There were 2 people in the white Bronco that OJ was running from the police from. All of this connected to the eclipse where the sun and moon, the 2 largest objects in the sky, come together. So let's dive into the numbers. O.J. Simpson passing away in Las Vegas, Nevada, which was the scene of a crime he committed in 2007 as well. Las Vegas is important to the NFL this year because for the first time ever, the city of Las Vegas hosted the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl that Vegas hosted was 58. And the very first thing I noticed is this slightly awkward headline talking about his family as the source. Using the alphabetic order, ordinal gematria, the cipher where it all begins here in the English language. This headline from CNN sums to 508. Freemasonry, a secret society, both summing to 58. And O.J. Simpson, whose name sums to 58 with the S exception in reduction gematria, died on a date with primary numerology of 58. You add 4 plus 10 plus 20 plus 24. His death occurred 2 days after the eclipse that went over Buffalo, and the number 2, when spelled out, also sums to 58. Now, this skull and bones code is important, as the president at the time of the destruction of the World Trade Center was George W. Bush, whom, just like his father, was a graduate of Yale University and a member of the Skull and Bones fraternity. The name George W. Bush equals 58, just like United States, the nation he presided over. In the reduction method, this points back to Tisha B'Av, which commemorates the destruction of Solomon's temple and the second temple, also called Herod's temple, all summing to 58, just like third temple, which Jerusalem hopes to build in the near future. Jerusalem and Twin Towers, also 58. When the World Trade Center complex first opened, all the way back in 1973, it was on the date leaving 271 days in the year. That's important because 271 is the 58th prime number. And if you measure from the destruction of the World Trade Center to the death of O.J. Simpson, you get a span of exactly 271 months. So as I mentioned at the top of the video, we're going to talk about how this syncs up with Pope Francis, who shares a namesake with San Francisco. And Pope Francis also has this gematria of 58. Well, when you write out the number 58, you get double gematria of 115. This is the number that connects John Madden's team, the Raiders, to the Skull and Bones Society. You'll also notice how Las Vegas, Nevada, and Nevada summing to 115. The next Super Bowl in New Orleans, another city with 115. Well, O.J. Simpson died 115 days after Francis's birthday. The word killing with double gematria of 115. But check out this other prime number connection. O.J. died exactly 631 lunations after the opening of the World Trade Center, and 631 is the 115th prime number. A Sisi in Sumerian gematria, which is a method that multiplies the alphabetic order by 6. You'll see the order is maintained 1 through 26, but multiplied by the first perfect number. And in this Sumerian method, the name Assisi sums to 456. On the date that O.J. died, Pope Francis was a span of exactly 4,556 weeks old. And again, Francis, the first Jesuit to become the Bishop of Rome. When the Jesuits first set off on missionary trips in the 16th century, there was a total of 456 Jesuits. So now let's talk about how this points to John Madden. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, truly the most iconic symbol of the city, opened up on a date with primary numerology of 88. O.J. Simpson died a span of 8 months and 8 days before Pope Francis's 88th birthday. Francis was born a span of 8 months and 8 days after John Madden, which means that O.J. Simpson died on John Madden's 88th birthday. Now, the reason John Madden is so synonymous with the NFL is because of the video game franchise. The first ever John Madden football game was released in the year 88. And in the alphabetic order, John Madden equals 88. His full name, John Earl Madden, equals 888, whereas Las Vegas Raiders, the team he used to coach, now sums to 88. So looking back at this total solar eclipse over the city of Buffalo, where OJ played most of his career, this eclipse belonged to Saros number 139. Every eclipse has a specific Saros series it belongs to. 139 is a number of Freemasonry. America and Jerusalem, the site of both two temple destruction rituals, both sum to 139, a number similar to OJ's full name, the 222nd prime, like eclipse. And it's interesting this connection popped up because just yesterday I did a video on WrestleMania where we talked about 1399 and 222. But let's look again at the date that OJ died, the 10th of April, or 10/4. Francis of Assisi is celebrated annually on October 4th, written 10/4. The date that OJ died can also be written 10/4 internationally. The phrase total solar eclipse equals 104. And here we have a death in connection with the Pope and Madden, both summing to 104, like Jerusalem and Twin Towers. Well, April 10th here in the States is written as 4/10. And this is another connection I recently mentioned because the Las Vegas Raiders, who started as the Oakland Raiders, played their first ever game on September 11th, exactly 41 years before the 9/11 attacks. 41, not only the reduction value of skull and bones, but also the ordinal sum of the name Madden, who was appropriately born on 4/10, or 10/4. 9/11 even had primary numerology of 41, a number connected to Mercury, which equals 41. And if you check out this link from the Post, you'll see that John Madden's death was completely constructed around the numerology of Mercury. John Madden, dead on 12/28. Mercury sums to 12/28. And he died a span of 103 days before his 86th birthday on 4/10, Mercury, 12/28, 103, 86, and 41. It takes Mercury approximately 88 days to orbit the sun. And once again, this all circles back to OJ, dying on Madden's 88th birthday. But there's another strong element here that we need to talk about, because 88 years is also 1,056 months. So John Madden would have been 1,056 months old when OJ died. Well, this is another significant number to the eclipse code, as eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart. And in Hebrew, the word for deficiency, which is used for solar eclipse, equals 156, like eclipse the sun in ordinal. The 156th prime number is 911, which again points to the date of the big terror attacks in the United States. The name O.J. Simpson in Latin, the most significant method, sums to 1019, which has, of course, the same digits as the 11th of September. And as I mentioned last week, there's a huge 9/11 riddle with John Madden. Madden led the Raiders to their first ever Super Bowl championship. And it was Super Bowl 11, which was the earliest Super Bowl ever played on the calendar, as Super Bowl 11 was played on the 9th day of the year, 11 and 9. That game was played 9,011 days before the 9/11 attacks. John Madden was born exactly 11 years and 90 days before O.J. Simpson. And now, O.J. Simpson has died 119 weeks and 1 day after Madden. The same digits found in the date, the 11th of September, 01. Ritual human sacrifice also with the 9/11 code. And this stands out because when the murders occurred that O.J. was accused of in 1994, check out Freemasonry's age, 101, 160, like a big upside down 9/11/01. When I talk about Freemasonry here, in this context, it's about the premier Grand Lodge of England, founded in 1717, which is where modern Scottish Rite Freemasonry appears to trace its roots to. The names Francis and Vatican, also 119. And when you write out ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in Latin, you get these same digits, 1911. Now, once again, 9/11, a recreation of the Tisha B'Av ritual. Notice how Tisha B'Av, the commemoration of the destruction of the two temples, equals 9/11. And Tisha B'Av is celebrated on the 9th day of the 11th month on the Hebrew calendar. Well, in the Gregorian calendar, that date would be written as November 9th, which also equals 1109. And of course, it was 9/11 that we had the World Trade Center attacks. When O.J. died, Freemasonry was exactly 16,008 weeks old, matching the ordinal value of Jerusalem, Israel, the site of the Tisha B'Av attacks. Now, I hadn't mentioned this, but I will expand. There's also a strong George Floyd riddle going on with this story. Of course, O.J., back in the 90s, there was a big racial element to this trial, or at least that's how the media framed it. And, it really wasn't until the George Floyd story where we saw similar racial tensions in the news. And maybe that's an oversimplification, but notice how the name George Floyd equals 119, whereas his birth numerology has the upside down 9/11. When Floyd died, it was 901 lunations and 11 days after O.J. was born. So we'll talk more about George Floyd a little bit later on. But before I do, I want to expand more on this skull and bones riddle for O.J. Simpson. Now, curiously enough, back on February 1st, just a couple months ago, I did a full-on decode of the O.J. murders from 1994. And I'm actually going to decode this post at the end because there is a strange synchronicity here with me and O.J. Simpson, but it's odd that I just did this work on February 1st and now we get the death of O.J. in connection to the Skull and Bones code, which I did a deep dive on as part of that decode. So let's talk about this. So John Madden, who would have celebrated his birthday on the date O.J. died, was really the most memorable and legendary head coach of the Raiders, who are one of the Skull and Bones teams of the NFL. Notice their logo has the crossed swords like the crossed bones. Skull and Bones, whether or not you use an ampersand, sums to 59. Multiple reduction methods, just like Freemasonry. Well, O.J. Simpson died 59 days after the Super Bowl that was held in the Las Vegas Raiders' home stadium. His death occurred from prostate cancer, which has matching 59 Gematria with kill. The 59th prime number is 277, which is found in the Gematria of Freemasonry, America, Jerusalem, and even Cancer. Well, O.J. Simpson died a span of 277 days after his 76th birthday. And in reverse reduction, Skull and Bones equals 76. Just like his home city, San Francisco 76, which was named after Francis of Assisi 76. We talked a lot about the number 2. 2 equals 760. But it's also important to understand that 59 and 76 are two numbers that are historically stamped on stories about black celebrities. The words Negro, slave, blues, and Rasta all have gematria of 59 and 76. So truly, it's no surprise that we see these numbers pop up in a story about a guy who was involved in so much racial division with that trial from 1995. If you use the ampersand, Skull and Bones gives us gematria of 527. Well, May 27th, or 527, is the date that the Golden Gate Bridge first opened to the public. If you measure from that date to the birthday of O.J. Simpson, you even get 527 weeks. And think about how this connects. The Golden Gate Bridge is orange. O.J. Simpson's nickname is O.J., which is often used to refer to orange juice. When the Golden Gate Bridge opened, there was a song called "There's a Silver Moon on the Golden Gate" that was sung. And this is because there actually was a moon on the Golden Gate at 267 degrees of the ecliptic, or maybe 266 at the time. But there was a definite astrological riddle there. Well, if you look at the Brown lunation number for O.J. Simpson's death, every new moon numbered since 1923, O.J. died during Brown lunation 1253. And I want to focus on these last three digits, 253, because in ordinal, the National Football League equals 253. The number 253 is a triangular number. Every number 1 through 22 gives us a sum of 253. Well, 220 is National Football League in ordinal. And in a National Football League game, there's 22 players on the field. You know, you could kind of say that O.J. Simpson died exactly 22 leap years after John Madden was born. John Madden born in a leap year. O.J. dead in a leap year. O.J. died on a date with 22 numerology. Think about how he got married to Nicole Brown on February 2nd, or 2/2. That resulted in the trial of the century, which equals 220. And now he's passed away from prostate cancer, which equals 220. This was a huge number in the George Floyd event, which happened in the year 2020. And I talked all about the number 22 in that post, which is linked. George Floyd died on the date leaving 220 days in the year 2020. This points us back to Skull and Bones, whose nickname is the Brotherhood of Death. Notice how the Brotherhood of Death sums to 220 ordinal, while Skull and Bones equals 202 reverse. The Las Vegas Raiders last played in the Super Bowl that ended the 2002 season. And the Raiders moved to Las Vegas in the year 2020. Well, check this out. O.J. Simpson died 2 months and 2 days before the 30th anniversary of the Brown and Goldman murders. Well, the city of Las Vegas has Hebrew gematria of 223, and in reverse caps, a cipher which again maintains the alphabetic order, but mixes capital and small letters together. the name O.J. Simpson sums to 223, just like the satanic value of Juice, his nickname. O.J. played college football for the University of Southern California Trojans, which equals 223. His death fell 202 weeks and 3 days, or 3 years, 322 days after George Floyd. George Floyd died 322 days after O.J.'s birthday. And notice how O.J. died 22 years and 30 weeks after the World Trade Center was destroyed. The World Trade Center 322. Remember last year, in 2023, Yale University turned 322 years old. Skull and crossbones with the 223 in ordinal. Well, if you measure from that anniversary to the death of O.J., you get 184 days, or a span of 185. And these are numbers connected to the two main elements of this story. As, let's see if I put this up here. Great American Eclipse, 184. Prostate cancer, Freemasonry, Herod's Temple, all 184. The 185 points back to World Trade Center and Solomon's Temple. The name Orenthal, also 185. He also died 6 months and 1 day after Yale's anniversary. Skull and crossbones equals 61 in reduction. His death was also the 101st day of a leap year. Las Vegas Raiders and Skull and Bone Society both equal 101. So does 223 and 322. The number 101 sort of reminds us of the shape of the World Trade Center as well. OJ's team, the Buffalo Bills, matches Yale in Gematria. And don't forget, last week, I just did the decode on the death of a former NFL player, Vontae Davis, who finished his career with the Bills. In fact, he retired from the NFL during just his second game with the Bills in a very strange eclipse riddle. So check that out if you missed it. Buffalo Bills has reduction gematria of 45. The name O.J. Simpson equals both 40 and 50. Well, when O.J. died, he was exactly 4,005 weeks old. In reduction, both ciphers, Golden Gate equals 45 and 45. But what this all points to is the number 13. 13 also with gematria of 45 in both reduction methods. So let's talk about the number 13, because this brings it all together for us. The date of OJ's death had reduced numerology of 13. The number 2 equals 13, dead 2 days after the eclipse. In Latin ordinal, both Freemasonry and total eclipse sum to 130. His given names, Orenthal James, sums to 1030 in Latin, similar to the abbreviation of World Trade Center, which is 1003. Skull and Bones has matching 130 ordinal gematria with human sacrifice. OJ played his college football for the USC Trojans, which equals 130. The names O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown, and Ronald Goldman all sum to 130 in ordinal. Brown and Goldman were killed in L.A., which equals 13. Again, where O.J. went to college. Those murders were 130 days after Simpson and Brown's wedding date. O.J. Simpson was born 1 year and 3 days after George W. Bush, which equals 130. Francis of Assisi died on October 3rd, the date written 10/3. And when OJ was acquitted of murder in 1995, that happened on October 3rd, the same date Francis of Assisi died. Now he's died in the city of Las Vegas, which equals 130, and he died 1 month and 30 days after the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Simpson was also born 369 days after George W. Bush. Both Simpson and Golden Gate sum to 369. Notice how the name Simpson equals 105 ordinal. OJ's death precedes the 105th NFL season. In fact, he died a span of 149 days before the first game this year. Skull and Bones and Orenthal, both 149 in Gematria. He shares some more intriguing Skull and Bones links to John Madden, but again, check out the links in the description if you want a little more and read these posts for yourself. I want to look back at this John Madden riddle because there's so much more here. For instance, notice how O.J. Simpson was born exactly 11 years and 3 months after John Madden. And the name O.J. Simpson equals 113. So does the name Ron Goldman, the man he was accused of murdering. But I also want to talk about how this connects to One World Trade Center, which is the building that replaced the Twin Towers in New York City. The 11th of November, or 11/3, is the date that these towers first opened to the public. OJ died 113 months after that date. And this is a number I actually mentioned in my original decode on OJ. As you'll see that the murders took place exactly 1,130 weeks before Super Bowl 50. And Super Bowl 50 took place in San Francisco, OJ's hometown. And it was a major riddle for OJ because the two teams were the White Broncos and the Black Panthers. OJ was chased in a white Bronco. And think about how the quarterback, Cam Newton, for the Panthers appears to be a grandson of Huey P. Newton, a founder of the Black Panthers. In fact, Ford revived the Bronco in 2016, the same year as that Super Bowl. O.J. Simpson died 159 days after November 3rd, the new tower's opening date. Well, both the World Trade Center and September 11th summed to 1590. And when Madden died, it was exactly 1,059 weeks after the 9/11 attacks. Scottish Rite and Jesus Christ both with the 159 as well. Christ sums to 77, which is the number that John Madden wore during his playing career. And John Madden even went on to win the Super Bowl in the year 77. World Trade Center and September 11th both equals 77. San Francisco, California and San Francisco, CA both have gematria of 417. This number stands out because using prime numbers, a cipher which maintains the alphabetic order, but uses only associated prime numbers 1 through 26. The name O.J. Simpson equals 417. O.J. was born 4,107 days after John Madden. The new World Trade Center opened exactly 41 years and 7 months after the first World Trade Center. O.J. Simpson died 10,417 days after he was acquitted of murder. He also died 417 days after George Floyd. A little bit more on George Floyd here because the connections are wild. Now, as I mentioned, his name equals 119 and he's got the upside down 911 in his birth numerology. Well, September 11th has matching 194 Gematria with 2001 and 119. Well, on the date of the 9/11 attacks, George Floyd was 10,194 days old. OJ died exactly 1,178 weeks later. Actually, it was one day after that, but the name George Floyd equals 178 reverse. And for the OJ murders in 94, George Floyd was exactly 1,078 weeks old. OJ died exactly 2,662 weeks after the World Trade Center opened. He was 26,620 days old when George Floyd died. That's the first multiple of 1331, a really important eclipse number. But check this out. Orenthal James Simpson equals 246. This is something I pointed out in my Skull and Bones decode. Because Orenthal was born 93 days before Yale turned 246 years old, and then the murders were committed 246 days after Yale's anniversary. When Yale turned 322 years old, it was during Brown Lunation 1,246. Well, this number came up again because George Floyd died exactly 246 weeks before the next Super Bowl, a number that OJ shares with Madden. The next Super Bowl, by the way, is the 59th. A little bit more on that, but think about the date that George Floyd died, 2505. OJ Simpson was 25,050 days old for Super Bowl 50 in his hometown of San Francisco. And here we have a 25 and a 50. Remember, 50 is the first multiple of 25. San Francisco, OJ Simpson, and Super Bowl all equal 50 in Gematria. All right, so there's a couple more things I wanted to cover before I end this video. And there's this Jesus code in OJ's death in connection to the murders from 94. Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ all have Gematria of 29 or 290. And a big number with Jesus is 33, the age at which many believe he was crucified. Well, OJ died 29 years, 303 days after the murders in 94. You'll also notice that this is 10,895 days. Well, here we go again, 895, the Latin value of 33. OJ dead 2,985 days after the Super Bowl in San Francisco. The name Jesus has this 985 Latin Gematria. OJ got married to Nicole Brown on the 33rd day of 1985. And you have to appreciate that just before OJ died, Wikipedia changed the photo for Ron Goldman to 1985 when he was only 17 years old. Why would they do this? They just recently had a pretty decent picture of Ron Goldman here, right? That, you know, when he was an adult a few years before he died. And when did they change this? I guess, yeah, after OJ died on April 11th, they changed it to his photo from 1985. John Madden also had these digits in his age for the killings, like World Trade Center 589. The phrase ritual human sacrifice, however, also has this 895, which we looked at. Ritual human sacrifice also has 131 gematria, like the name Simpson. Super Bowl sums to 131. And the date of the murders had numerology of 131 and 112. Super Bowl also equals 112. And these two died exactly 11,200 days before the next Super Bowl. So, no doubt, there is a big riddle connected to Super Bowl 59 here. And I don't want to expand too much on it. On my channel, I did a whole super stream on Super Bowl 59. And it's right here, super stream number 53. Half of this video is devoted to the numerology of Super Bowl 59 and the Baltimore Ravens. I'll try and remember to link this below after I'm done. So it's a little vague, but definitely connections there. Now, the last thing I want to discuss today is how I made this post back in February. Previous work I did on the death of O.J. Simpson, or I'm sorry, his ex-wife and her friend, Ronald Goldman. So I decided to check the date that I made this post. And first of all, it's funny, right? Because I did a skull and bones riddle here. And I suppose one of the ways you can write this out is skull and crossbones. And the date I made this post was 2/1 of 24, February 1st of 24. So here you have the 201 and the 24. Well, notice how that post was 69 days before O.J. Simpson died. And that stood out because 69 is the astrological symbol for Cancer, which sums to 69. John Madden was born on a date with 69 numerology, and O.J. died exactly 88 years later. Well, 88 equals 69 in reduction. Eclipse, eclipse of the sun, and eclipse the sun all sum to 69, like Buffalo, New York, where O.J. played football. Now, in my last video, actually Superstream 71 on my channel, I talked about synchronicity and how I often experience things happening by the numbers in my own personal life, because as much as people would love to say that they're always decoding the cabal and that, you know, everyone who dies that's a celebrity is getting sacrificed, I believe that's definitely not the case. There's something much, much greater going on. Well, anyway, in my last video, I talked about this synchronicity I had with 227, the numbers 227. And notice how September the 11th sums to 227 and the 227th prime number. O.J. Simpson died a span of exactly 22 years and 7 months after September the 11th. The next Super Bowl is played in New Orleans, Louisiana, which equals 227. When I saw the eclipse this past Monday, I was exactly 2,027 weeks old. And in ancient Hebrew, total eclipse and the United States of America both sum to 227. When I saw the first eclipse over the United States of America in 2017, the place I stood to watch the eclipse saw totality for exactly 2 minutes and 27 seconds. And no, I did not plan that. My birth numerology is 33, which always stands out because 33 is believed to be the master teacher number. And here I am on YouTube for over 700 videos now teaching about numerology. Teacher equals 33. The first time I ever spoke at a conference to teach numerology, they checked me into room number 330. Orange, Juice, and Simpson all sum to 33. Notice how I was born 330 days after OJ's birthday. And when I watched the police chase unfold on television, I was 3,300 days old, which is the number you see with police, masonry, secrecy, false flag order, also eclipse 33. The word prostate also equals 33. That's the type of cancer that killed OJ. Prostate also has matching 114 gematria with Orenthal James Simpson. OJ died exactly 11 years and 4 weeks after Francis became the Pope. News of his death broke on the 11th of April, or 11/4. 114 is also my birth numerology. Lastly, my full name is 878. OJ was exactly 878 lunar orbits old when Francis became the Pope. And now he's dead of prostate cancer, which equals 878. So what does this all mean? Well, back when I first started looking at numerology, I believed that much more was being scripted by man than I do now. So when I saw this sync with, me posting 69 days before OJ's death, and then he died of cancer 69 days later, I thought I must have matching numbers with OJ for this synchronicity to exist. And it kind of blew me away when I ran the numbers. So it's not like I planned it, but the reason synchronicity seems to exist is because some people just share numbers with one another. And again, I feel like that's a bit vague to end this video on, but there's definitely something more going on here. And, a lot of people will show you the basic matches with numerology and how things connect and try to sell a narrative based on that. But I assure you, truth seekers, something much, much deeper is going on in our world, this magical place we live in. And to me, the eclipse is probably one of the better clues we have of that. Just the odds that we live in a world where we have a moon that appears to be the exact same size of the sun. The odds are just too infinitesimal for this not to be some sort of created realm that we live in. I truly believe that, and I truly believe that numerology is proof of the creation and a stamp of the Creator's work. And that's not to say that no one's scripting news stories by the numbers. In fact, if you check out my blog recently, I did a story on Jelly Roll, who had to make an emergency landing. However, there's no evidence of this landing. There's no photos, there's no videos, just a tweet from Jelly Roll's wife. And when you run the numbers, you realize this man is a walking revelation riddle. So it's highly unlikely that this ever happened. At least that's what I think. But when it comes to real-world events, births, deaths, things of that nature, I always urge everyone to just keep their mind open in this wild, matrixy world we live in. All right, everyone, that'll do it for this video. Peace, love, God bless. As always, check the links in the description for more related content. We'll talk to you all next time. See ya.